Hey lovelies, hope you are well. Now this video is on relationships, and specifically I've made it for my clients, but I also want to share it on my blog website. So you'll find it there, and the purpose of it being there is that if you're at the stage where your relationship, you're new in a relationship, in your marriage, and things are just not, looking the way you want them to be looking or feeling, then this is a good time for you to go through these 5 steps and basically save your marriage early on. Okay, so 5 steps, let's go through them. Number 1 is check in with your spouse's values, life values and their marriage values. Really important we do this. If you're not married yet, then make sure you do this. This will be such a huge thing for you. If your values are the same, your life values, especially core values, then you will make it through marriage. No matter what happens, your values will bring you back. But if you haven't, then this, you can still do this for sure. What matters to you in life, list it down, make it fast, so whatever things come out in their mind, 8 things, what matters to them in their life values, and then in the marriage values, 8 things as well, roughly. Just put them out there, keep asking them that question, get them out there, because when you know people's values, and any time something happens in life and maybe your spouse reacts in a certain way, maybe a negative way, and you'll know why that's happened. Okay, so it's about understanding their model of the world, right? Get to know your spouse as well. So this is something that you'll do alongside your values. You'll get to know their life history. How were they raised? How did they manage their life before you got married? Emotions, how did they manage their emotions? So this will get you to understand the model of the world, and values is a good place to start, right? And also connect them with yours as well, fundamental values especially. So for example, if your spouse's value is to, in marriages, it's important to me to make sure my wife is safe at all times. And say something happened, a great example here is recently one of my clients who we haven't had a relationship breakthrough, it was an emotional breakthrough we've had, and she messaged me saying that, Naz, I went out on a winter night, one of the winter nights, cold, my car broke down on the motorway. I was okay at the end, but I told my husband about what happened, the detail of what happened, and he got really upset with me, and because he was working away at this time, he told me that you're not allowed to go out now until I get back, right? And I found that really as an extreme consequence of what's happened, that I can't go out now until he comes back. I mean, I think it's a matter of just a few days, but still, if she found it restrictive, that she started having a huge argument about it, and it kind of blew up massively on the phone, and they hadn't spoken since. This was a good probably day or 2, and that's not normal for them to do that. And I said, okay, so how do you know his values? Again, we did not have a relationship breakthrough, but I said, get to know his values. Maybe you've compromised one of his marriage values. Like maybe for him it's important to look after his wife, right? And now one of their values has been, compromised. That's the reaction that's happened. Whereas if you knew your spouse's values beforehand, and then some things happened that could compromise their values, you'd allow that reaction to happen. You'll know why it's happened. Like me and my spouse, I know which value of his I could compromise at times, and I let him have that reaction. Sometimes I just let it. It doesn't turn into an argument, right? So whereas if I didn't know, then it would turn into an argument. It'd be like, why, and all this stuff, right? And you can always work on the consequences part later on. For example, with this situation with this client, not allowing her to go out, it could have been just out of reaction, emotionally reaction, and he may not have meant it long term. Maybe it was just something he had to just say at that time to overcome the emotions, right? Because we are emotional beings. We will hear something that we don't like. We'll first, if we're not trained to pause, we'll say what we feel, right? So sometimes that does happen, but you'll know when to probably allow him to have that little reaction and come back to that situation. Another rule you might want to add in there when you do feedback, actually I'll wait till the feedback section on this, is to not talk to each other when you're angry. Step away is probably a rule that you might want to take on board, because when you're angry, you're not your authentic self anyway. okay? But I will touch on that again as we go on to this. So again, you'll know when their core value has been, or marriage value has been compromised, and then you'll allow that reaction to happen if it needs to happen, and you can deal with that situation later on when emotions have been settled. So you'll be a little bit more patient and understanding. And again, just step away when there's frustration or anger happening. Allow them to feel it, right? And give them time to process those emotions, but come back when you've got to deal with that situation later on. So it doesn't escalate to something that it shouldn't have gone to. Number 2, feedback. Now you can feedback each other daily on how you've been, where the improvements are, where the improvements are needed, and what positive has happened. You can do it daily or you can do it weekly. I would say at least weekly to do this. Some couples like to do it daily. Do it as often as you want to do it, but definitely minimal weekly. So what's been amazing, and what needs to improve, okay? And be specific with this, because some things may take longer for the other person to improve on, right? They may need a little bit longer time, and some things they can do straight away just by one feedback, right? But just know that we are growing, evolving humans. We are always going to make mistakes, There'll be a new situation in life, and you'll see a new behavior come up, or a negative behavior that might come up that never has been there before, or it probably hasn't been there for a while, but it's come up because they don't know how to handle it, okay? But you can give them feedback on this. So this is what I loved about this week, but this is where you need to improve, right? And allow the other person to tell you how long will it take them to improve on this, and how long will it take them to improve on this, okay? For example, there were some things that I needed a lot longer to improve on, and some things happen straight away, right? So just know that. And if it doesn't happen in the time frame they think that improvement should happen by, so what resources, what support system do they need to help them improve on that situation, that personal evolution, right? Because we are all humans that should be evolving, right? We all need to grow, right? Always. And be flexible with each other in terms of our behaviour. So feedback every week has to happen, right? And again, just to recap, if change or evolution is not happening, get yourself the support, the training, if you need training, I don't know, whatever it is that you need to work on that one thing, right? I got coaching when I knew I was not evolving. There was times when I had a health problem and I got access to, that was affecting my behaviour, and then I got access to a homeopath. So allow yourself to invest in yourself if you have to work on your marriage, because marriage takes effort like everything else in life. Just the way your college, university, or your career took effort, so does marriage, so does every relationship, so does being a parent, so does being a daughter, right? All relationships take effort, and the only time we have problems is when we've stopped putting effort in them, okay? They need effort, they need attention. Not a lot, but they do need some, okay? And sometimes they'll need more attention than the other times, but they always do need some attention. So feedback we've done. Know each other's love language is the third step, okay? How do you know you're feeling loved? How do you know you're feeling loved? Now, there's 5 love languages that Dr. David Chapman, you can get his book, I will leave the link somewhere on this video, has said, right, after doing counselling for, I think, 30 years, couples counselling for 30 years, he went through his notes, and it was always something to do with love language. I'm not feeling loved. What was happening was the spouse that their love language was, say was getting gifts, right? So they felt loved when they received gifts. What they were doing was communicating that love language with their spouse. So they were getting gifts for their spouse, assuming that that's their love language as well, when the spouse's love language was perhaps quality time, right? So if their love language was quality time, but their husband was constantly giving them gifts, they didn't feel loved, right? So that miscommunication created conflict and resentment over time. Little things like that done many times, create bigger resentment and conflicts. So get to know their love language, and how you can do that is by watching the video that it's like a summary that, or getting the book summary on YouTube that I'll share here. So there's 5 love languages: physical touch, word of affirmations or word of affirmation, gifts, quality time, or acts of service. Which one of those is your primary love language? Which one has to happen? Has to happen. And the other ones might not happen as often, but you will still feel loved, right? So would you be okay with getting gifts and not having quality time? If the answer is no, then quality time matters more to you. Would you be okay with quality time and have no acts of service? No acts of service. So acts of service, if it's a no, then acts of service is more strong for you. You need to be, you feel loved by acts of service. So which one has to happen for you to feel loved? Okay, just reflect on this. Take a few minutes. Which one has to happen out of all them 5? You can have all them 5 for sure, but which one is your primary love language? Which one, if it's not done, you will not feel loved. If it's not done over a month, you won't be loved, okay? So that one has to be, you've got to tell your spouse, that's my love language. You make sure that happens, right? And vice versa. Whatever your spouse's love language is, their primary love language, you have to do it, right? And be flexible with it. Be flexible. If at any time you're struggling with giving your spouse the love language that they want, but you don't really like, reflect on it. Why did I like doing that love language? Why did I like giving that love language? Work on it, because you've got to be flexible. Behavioural flexibility gives us success. Work on it, reflect on it. Okay, feedback on your spouse every week on this as well. So little step 4 is marriage takes effort, and know that people will still make mistakes. Something I've touched on already. We will make mistakes when you do this together. Know that no human's perfect and we will make mistakes. So be open to this. Make the effort. Okay, no, mistakes will still happen. Even though you're doing this, mistakes will still happen. You will go through a new situation in life and new behaviors might pop up, right? And then your job is to give your spouse something that they don't have, whether it's a skill, whether it's a characteristic that you've strongly got but they don't have. You will be there to give them that. Be aware of that. The effort is always there. Reflection is always needed, because you are perfect together. You will. If you dive in deep, you'll know there's things in your spouse that you need, and there's things in you, skills and characteristics in you, that they will need. Okay, and just allow that to happen. Allow them to use your skills and characteristics that they need for their personal growth, and vice versa. So the last one, 5, is have behavioural flexibility for each other. Okay, so clean up your own emotional stuff constantly. So have your daily routine. You know, I'm not saying to be rigid with this, but have something that you know will keep your emotional glass full. Whatever that is, whether you want to meditate, whether you want to do prayers, whether you want to read, whatever that is, exercise. How can you keep your emotional glass full? Yeah, check in with your spirit, your soul. What does your soul want? Because if your emotional glass is full, you'll be able to give more to your spouse, right? Otherwise, you'll be giving him from an empty cup, and that's either going to make you really, really frustrated with yourself that you're trying to be this strong person, or you'll be content and you'll give the best. You'll give the best, right? I used to try to be of service from an empty emotional cup for years when we first got married, and it doesn't work. You get exhausted. You'll probably be nice for a few days and then you'll probably be snapping again because you're just so exhausted. So make sure you're looking after your own self, your own health, your own spirit, and your mental health as well. Whatever that means for you, take out time for yourself. Even if it means 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, make sure you're taking out time for yourself to feel fulfilled emotionally, so that you can have that behavioural flexibility. Okay, so my client said to me, I don't really like hugs, but my husband loves hugs, cuddles. Then I'm like, well, what's stopping you from that? What's stopping you from giving your spouse cuddles? Because, you know, that's a love language, right? And you can lawfully give your husband cuddles. So what is stopping you? So we did some work together, and we cleared up some past memories around physical touch, and she was able to now give that love language to her husband. Just reflect on it. Anything that's stopping you from doing what your spouse is saying in terms of the love languages, you know, work on it. What conflict is inside of you that's stopping you from being that? So just to recap 5 things: check each other's values. Now, values you may want to check every 3 to 6 months because they do tend to change, or if they do change and you don't know about it, you'll be shocked when something might happen. Number 2 is feedback weekly, at least. 3 is know each other's love language and demonstrate it. Number 4 is effort. Marriage takes effort. Know that mistakes will still happen, and that reflect on it. What do we need to learn? How do we need to learn? What skill sets do we need? What characteristics do we need from each other, perhaps, or outsource them? And have behavioural flexibility, number 5. And which basically means clean up your own stuff, emotional stuff, consistently, so that you're able to be in a more behavioural flexible position to give more to your spouse, right? It's very hard to do something that you don't really like to do, okay, for whatever reason, in terms of love languages anyway, if there's emotional baggage holding you down from it, okay? Work on it. Do whatever you need to do to make your marriage flourish, okay, because you deserve it. So those are the 5 steps. And again, if you do want one-to-one, any chats on this, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll catch you in the next video.